evening and welcome to the school committee this evening, Monday, April 13th. I have some special friends in the audience who will be introducing in a minute, but first I would like us all to stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The Longmeadow School Committee maintains educational policies that foster continuous improvement by challenging and supporting all children in a safe and caring learning environment, enabling them to reach their highest potential and to become productive citizens. Through effective communication and positive relationships, the Longmeadow School Committee will make informed decisions in the best interests of the students, the schools, and the Longmeadow community. And this evening we have some very special guests from Blueberry Hill that I will let the principal, Mrs. Marie Pratt, introduce and start their presentation.
Good evening. So last time we came, we had some 4th and 5th graders who talked about our school newspaper. So this time we thought we would bring our youngest students and let them show off some of the great things that they have learned. I want to introduce the 3 kindergarten teachers who would like to stay behind the scenes. So we have Miss O'Brien over there, Mrs. Murphy, and Mrs. Anderson. And they have done some amazing work in kindergarten this year. This group of students, and many aren't here, but have done wonderful writing, learning to read, and doing some great math. And so I'm not going to talk too much about the program because I think they're going to tell you about the program, but they're going to tell you about the Lively Letters program. You could face this way. Face me. Hello. Just for the camera.
Lively letters come your way. Lively letters are here to stay. Don't go away. Lively letters are coming your way. Lively letters are here to stay. We want to play. Sing a little louder. Ready? Get ready to move your lips and your tongue. Get ready to dance and have lots of fun. Get ready to sing. There are songs to be sung. We're the liveliest letters under the sun, and the fun has begun. Under the sun, sun to be sung. Have lots of fun. I am the mother who's quiet and tall, so my baby can sleep but not noisy at all. I put my lips together and puff out some air, but I keep my voice soft so the baby won't hear. Why don't we get on? can't see you anymore. I don't know where you are. I was from the old wall. You can see my Harry. Sometimes people think I'm a little bit scary. Right now I'm happy, so my song's very quick. My tongue's up in the back. What a great doggy trick.
Miss O'Brien. Go up by Miss O'Brien.
I know.
Oh, wow. Just thinking about
So what they're getting ready for right now is to do a song about the superstars. So for those of you, superstars are the vowels.
You ready, King Ed? All right.
Okay, so we're going to do King Ed. And King Ed is what used to be known as Silent E. For all of you older school people. And don't worry, we're not doing King Ed.
King Ed.
I did not know it was King Ed. I did not know it was King Ed.
I'm King Ed. You can see with the crown on my head when the vowels before me. I'm mad.
You guys see a little
I see red.
Well, kindergartners, if you look up here for a sec, we're going to tell you what a great job you did. I've been visiting kindergartens for a long, long time, and I am so impressed with this group of students and how well you know your letters. Another thing, I visited some kindergartners today at a different school, and I'm amazed how all of you are already writing. I wish the school committee could see what I saw today. They're not only learning letters, but they're applying, they're putting them to words and spacing, and able to tell you vowels from your consonants. That's absolutely amazing. I thought you did a great, great job. Thank you.
I think you guys did a great job singing those songs. I haven't heard them for a couple years, so it's nice to hear again. Thanks for coming and showing us.
Yes, thank you.
You guys will have to come back again.
Yeah. Thank you, parents, for bringing us. Yes, thank you, everyone.
Thank
Couple minutes. Like, I'm taking off that dress. Scary. Yeah, they sent it here. Where'd you get it?
Teachers a note. That much appreciated. That was fantastic. Thank you. Thank you.
Maybe it's something you can't.
She's out. She's probably asleep.
Stay in touch.
Did they get one? Maybe they didn't. You know, I thought this was yours. Because I had 3. Yeah.
Mark.
And I think that we can have all of us have a new appreciation for kindergarten teachers, or a renewed appreciation of kindergarten teachers after seeing this group this evening. Well, they did a fabulous job.
I'd just like to share with school committee Lively Letters as part of the literacy study that we've been doing over the past, we're into our 5th year now, and this was adopted by K1. 2 and 3 are looking to expand it next year, but it's a multi-sensory approach. The kindergarten and first grade teachers are reporting huge gains in academic success by using this program for phonics, so we're very, very happy with it. And that's just a taste of what it can do.
Awesome. Correspondence.
We have correspondence, a memo from Dr. Donald Jarvis of the Lower Pioneer Valley Career and Technical Education Center, dated April 6, 2015, regarding Student of the Month Awards for February 2015. The Longmeadow student recognized was Ashley Matthews for Integrated Occupational Prep. We have an email from Ms. Mary Heiser, dated March 25, 2015, regarding the 2015-16 school calendar. An email from Ms. Christine Fleming, dated March 26, 2015, regarding funding of kindergarten. An email from Dr. Anna Circa, I'm sorry if I'm saying your name wrong, dated March 23, 2015, regarding changing the start time for middle school students. And finally, an email from Ms. Pamela Mahoney, dated March 23, 2015, regarding redistricting.
Okay, thank you. At this time, any visitor comments or public input? If you have any, if you'd come to the microphone, state your name and address, please.
Hello, I'm Sean Anderson. I live at 49 Farmington Avenue. First off, that was great to see those kids. There was about 30 plus or minus, so just consider that. There's about 15%. that are involved in the redistricting proposal, so 5 or so of those children that won't be able to return to their school next year. So we'll sort of put that out there. So the school committee's responsibility is to work within their communities to improve achievement in the public schools. And I'm here tonight to encourage the school committee to manage the superintendent differently in order to achieve that goal. Shame on me for not being involved sooner, but recent events have caused me to dig deeper into the issues facing our schools and the performance of the superintendents relative to that. I recently attended the select board meeting where Mr. Clark presented the committee's recommendations for middle school statement of interest. I was embarrassed to learn how little the superintendent prepared for this request for the town. It was clear that the select board had done their research while the school committee had failed to make a compelling case, overlooking what appeared to be an overwhelming amount of data that directly contradicted Ms. Doyle's approach to one large centralized middle school. This failure rests squarely on the shoulders of the superintendent. In the past few weeks, I've watched the superintendent clumsily moderate the redistricting committee meetings. She has set the stage for a community to engage in a very personal, bitter battle. This pits neighbor against neighbor, friend against friend. It feels like the movie The Hunger Games, where we all defend our zone's children, and we're secretly hoping that someone else's kid gets pulled from the school that they love. This could have been avoided if she had presented unemotional facts and demonstrated transparency of the process. This was not done. Her misrepresentation of the facts have created much of the fear and uncertainty now facing our town. If you simply focus on our children's educational well-being, I can't imagine anyone would agree that removing 70 to 100 kids from the school where they excel academically, love and support is good for learning. Moving kids does not help them excel. My family is within one of the proposed redistricted zones. I will support any redistricting proposal that grandfathers existing kids. I think it's paramount to their learning and their continuity of education, their social status, their social capital, and their ability to learn within that group. They already pick out their teachers for the next year. It's critical to them being successful. I'd like to remind you that Ms. Doyle works for you, the school committee, and you in turn work for the community's children. Your only job is to focus on the educational needs of the children. The community has witnessed many failures, mistruths, self-serving misrepresentation from the superintendent and some members of the board, and this includes a failure to present factual data for the middle school, lack of rigor within detail within the budget, transparency in the decision-making, and of course this redistricting mess. Failure to manage her effectively could result in serious impact to our community. Please get involved. Please ask those questions. Please dig deeper, because it's up to you, this select board, this school committee board, to make the ultimate decision that impacts our community and our children's education. Thank you.
Hello, my name's Chris Papadopoulos, 17 Farmington Avenue. I have a daughter, Alexa, 6 years old. She'll be going into 2nd grade next year, and my son is 3, and he'll be starting kindergarten in 2 years. I live in Proposal A area, but I just wanted to have a blanket statement for the record. Although I'm in Proposed Area A, I support any redistricting proposal that grandfathers all existing children and their families in the school that they're in currently. I encourage the redistricting committee and the superintendent to develop a long-term sustainable enrollment balancing strategy that allows our community to never have to go through this again, because it hasn't been really fun the past couple of weeks. As Sean mentioned, there's a lot of neighbors against neighbors, friends against friends, and I'm just looking to try to shed some light on that. So I'm in the accounting industry, so all I really know is numbers. So I took the liberty to print out the budget off of the website, and I just had a couple questions. I know you guys can answer my questions, so I figured I'd just put them on record, and hopefully between now and when we come up with a proposal that we all agree on, that these questions can be answered. My biggest question is, how does redistricting affect the staffing cost and full-time equivalents, which are called FTEs in the budget, for both Blueberry and Center schools? I focused a lot on a couple pages, 52 and 53. 52 outlines staffing changes and shows an increase of 3.65 staff. Yet those numbers don't tie to page 53, which shows an increase of 1.8 full-time equivalents, which is about 2 full-time positions. So I just wonder what that discrepancy is. On page 53, you show 4.7 teacher reductions, and this is kind of where I want to focus my time here. Where do these terminations occur? And on page 52, it only shows full-time equivalents. It's not really specific to teachers. And, you know, my question is on the teacher reductions. You know, we've made an assumption on the past couple meetings that we've attended that with the movement, and using Proposal A's numbers, which I'm fine with, I think 65 students from Blueberry to Center, we just assumed in these presentations that teachers would be moving with them, but we've never really confirmed that. And the reason I ask that is because if teachers don't move with the students, then the average class size at Blueberry will go up, and the average class size at Center will go up. And this is just these are the details that I don't think people really have all the facts at this point. And again, I could be completely wrong. I'm just looking at, you know, it's a pretty thick budget here. So I just wanted to get that question out there. It's pretty impactful, and it really should play into the decision we make with any redistricting, whether it's A, B, or A, C, or E. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, my name is Aaron Mather. I'm an impacted parent in Zone A. I have two daughters, Nalani, 7, going into 2nd grade at Blueberry, and a younger daughter, Farron, who's being there in a couple of years. Yeah, this past week has been pretty interesting because, you know, as an impacted Zone A parent, we sort of woke up to the news and started getting our hands dirty and involved almost on a daily basis for well over a month. But over the past week, the people in neighborhoods C or Zone C and E, and maybe the community at large has started to take notice. And the first email that was sent out, they realized they weren't on the list, and they sort of went about their day. And I felt known for that. But now, you know, we've heard a lot of misguided comments coming from neighbors, friends, and again, I would push all of that aside to say that at the end of the day, what all of us care about is making sure that our children get to finish out school in the same schools that they started, and that our families get to do that. If a fair redistricting proposal is made, some neighborhoods and some families are going to be in it whether they like it or not. But when that happens, the thing that everyone is going to care about the most is that their children get to finish out. Because if they don't, then that's basically telling me that it's okay for you to take your kids out of the school, but not mine. And all the concerns about neighborhood sanctity, property values, we share all the same concerns. So I want to, you know, put it to the committee, I want to put it on record that we've spent, you've seen our faces, and you know we've been doing work in this for many, many weeks now. We have looked at every piece of data we can get our hands on. We've spoken to every public official here in town and in Boston that we could speak to. And no one is talking about the urgency of this redistricting. And you know, maybe that's going to be tied to the budget, but I certainly can tell you that it's not substantiated by this party line that Blueberry is overcrowded. So again, I want to put it on record that I support any plan that grandfathers all of our children. I think that's what's most important to the entire community. If redistricting is something that's really necessary, and I understand from researching redistricting efforts across the state and across the country, this is something that's very real. It's happening across the country. It's happening here in the state. There's a precedent for grandfathering, and everyone should do the research. And for all the committee members, I would advise everyone not to take anything that comes from the superintendent's desk at face value. And be careful about what stances you associate yourself with that you haven't personally vetted yourself. That's all I have to say.
Good evening, everyone. Alex Mitreska, 68 Ellington Street, father of 2 children, Isabella Mitreska, who is 9, 3rd grade in Blueberry Hill, and Nicola Mitreska, who is 1st grade at Blueberry Hill. Your meetings are becoming a lot more popular today. I could almost find a parking space. So I guess I wanted to highlight 3 topics for discussion for you tonight. And First is that, this redistricting itself and some of the target neighborhood A is in my mind, a very reckless idea, and I'll elaborate on that. Two, I'll talk about children and how they're being affected through this process. And third, we'll talk about eyes on the child. And the reason why, redistricting is obviously a painful process. We've seen it. It's sort of exploded now in our community, and everybody's sort of looking at each other, Hunger Games and whatnot, and popularity contests. A lot of bad things said about people. And I think, I don't know, and Superintendent Doyle said that one of the intent was to make it a short process for 1 month so that it protects children, but I think that's what sort of it's a double-edged sword, and I think that's what we're seeing right now, because a lot of people are not prepared for this, thought they're not affected, and now everybody's up in arms. So there's a reason why so many communities do this over a 6 to 9 month period, because everybody is fully vetted, goes through the data, looks at the information. And my biggest concern is why a professional wasn't involved in developing this solution, or any solution. Because if you had hired a consultant and they have studied and they've said, hey, these are the two streets, Farmington, Ellington, where most of us live, or whatever, I can't complain against the superintendent or any of you or any of my neighbors in this community. I'm not going to argue against some professional who will show charts and say that's the right solution. Because if you move with neighborhood A or neighborhood C, it's going to be a bad solution. That I'm certain of. Because while the numbers will make sense the first year, you're going to move 80 children or whatever, everything is going to be at parity. The enrollment changes. Houses get on the market and change. That's the unpredictable part that none of us in this town, or maybe some professionally works, but we certainly are not equipped to look at that data. This is a chart for center school enrollment. It has gone down. So now it's creating the space where we want to house children. But look, in 5 years, has gone from 420 to about 350 in 5 years. I mean, this is under the same footprint. So now you want to add on the 60 children. And what if, I've sort of and few who are on the redistricting committee have seen this, but what if that trend picks up? People start to retire, move out of town, taxes are going up, and people with young families start to move in. And sort of this trend reverses. That's the blue line. So we are at 420 in 5 years again. And then we added these 60 or something children. Now we've failed with center school in 5 years. And to Mr. Fitzgerald's line of kicking the can down the road, that's where I think this is what's happening. It's going to be fine the first year, second year, but it's just going to be a mess in 5 years. And then we're going to avoid this process for 5 years, just like we've done with Blueberry Hill, until it becomes unbearable, and then we're going to start this process again. That's why I think A or C is going to be a failed proposal, because maybe it's just few streets that need to be switched. In my street only with 20 households or 30 households, had 50 children at some point, not recent ago. So I just want you to understand that. And again, neighborhood A is hit with a double whammy. One, they're being now going to become a de facto swing district if you move them, and you're impacting the children. And at the end of the day, that's all that matters, children. That's something that you cannot replace. And the reason why I'm speaking with you and we're here is because you're ultimately the body that's going to decide on this. I know the redistricting committee has got its own process, but then superintendent needs to make the proposal to you, and you can disregard that and move on. So you have the ultimate power to decide what's the best for this town. And it's very clear that town doesn't have the stomach for Plan E. It's disappointing that the school administration is not endorsing that as a long-term solution to avoid this problem. And I've said it many times, there is cost to any solution. There is cost, and we have to weight that cost. It's trade-offs. So we have to figure out what's a priority. So going back to second topic, which is children now become a victim of this inertia. We have seen this discrepancy in terms of enrollment, right? Blueberry stays flat. So again, that's one thing that I think I really appreciate school administration to stop saying that Blueberry is overcrowded or bursting through the seams, anything. It's not. You housed 70 children more at some point, 75 children more at its peak. So it's not overcrowded. But disparity was there. So it didn't happen overnight, and we shouldn't be solving this problem overnight. That's the fundamental problem that everybody has. You're treating children as furniture, trying to move them to make the numbers right. So but I'm realistic, and I've seen Blueberry Hill, and I know what's happened. There needs to be, I think we've reached capacity, and I think that's what we all can agree, and we don't have to argue, that something needs to be done now, sooner than later. We need to add more space for the children with our services. We need to add more. That needs to happen. But we can be creative. We can create mobiles. We can bring mobile classrooms like we've done in Williams. We can divide certain rooms in two, because what really is needed is privacy for some of these special programs. And I know I'm getting over that, but I just want you to understand that I'm also speaking for my wife who couldn't make it here. So if you could just give me 2 more minutes, I'll be wrapping up. I wanted to ask a couple of questions to Mr. Clark. Reading on social media that you said, well, we haven't started this process until now because the curriculum was not equal among the schools. So that was a little bit of a shocking statement to me, and maybe you can elaborate and clarify, because I don't know. And maybe
This is
that's
not
true.
a give and take. This is
No, I
visitor
understand.
comments.
No, I understand, but I want to put that for the record, so, because that's sort of surprising, because I thought all the schools in town are great and the curriculum is equal everywhere else. So I would like to hear that clarification, how the curriculum was different and why that was okay to keep on with this disparity for so many years and not start this process sooner, because we could have solved this by now had we started a gradual process by now. Point to Ms. Gerard, you keep saying kids are resilient, kids are resilient, kids are resilient. They are, I agree, but they're resilient when their traumatic events happen to their life. Death in the family, abuse happens, they have defense mechanisms, but the trauma and the emotional scars remain. And that's the problem, that if we don't do anything to the children, or if we don't put children first, that's what's gonna happen. And if you guys decide not to grandfather children, you're directly affecting the emotional stress to those children. And that's where is the eyes on the child, and this is toward the superintendent. For years, for decades, we have allowed children who move from one school, Blueberry or Center, Wilson, to remain in that school, because that's the environment they've liked, they've nurtured. That's, to me, the right approach. People jump from my neighborhood and say, why there's 17, 16 children that don't live in Blueberry in that school? We got to kick them out first. No, it's not right. You know, those are somebody else's children. They should stay there. I mean, some of them have moved across town. They're friends of my daughter. They're somebody else's children. They shouldn't be kicked out. And if you decide to grandfather mine and kick those, I'll be here making this same speech. There is an emotional stress to those children moving. Children are not furniture, so we have to look at that. So by you not championing for grandfathering, Mrs. Dole, you're becoming hypocritical, because you've endorsed that process for keeping the children in the environment they're used to so they can continue to thrive. Yet you're saying, well, if they're 65, we can just move them, they'll be fine. That's hypocritical. So at the end of the day, I just don't want my children to be a collateral damage, and there's unintended consequences. You can't control what children say in a playground, what they're going to say to my daughter and say, well, I guess you weren't fit to stay in Blueberry Hill, you're not good enough, etc. That's, if you, all of you, say, you know what, go back to the district committee, come up with a solution that in 3 years creates a parity, and leave the children aside, but come up with the right solution. A lot of smart people in that room will roll up their sleeves and will come up with a good and sensible solution. That's the key. Eyes on the child. Thank you.
Any other visitor comments?
Thank you, Jennifer, for letting me speak.
Good evening. My name is Alex Grant, and I serve on the Long Meadow Select Board, 54 Westmoreland Avenue. I'm here to echo a call to action that I made to my own board on the opioid epidemic. I am spurred to action after having attended a panel discussion on April 2nd at the federal courthouse in Springfield. It was attended by Congressman Richard Neal, U.S. District Judge and former Hampden County District Attorney Mark Mastriani, Northwestern District Attorney David Sullivan, and a number of people on the front lines of the battle against addiction to prescription pills, painkillers, and heroin. And this symposium is just one of many that are taking place across this state. That's how urgent it is. The title of this conference was In Our Backyard. But as one panel member pointed out, that's not true. It's even more immediate. It's in our homes. It's in our families and friends. Right now, the state is on track for more than 1,300 overdose deaths. At least 2 overdose deaths have occurred in Longmeadow in the last 2 years. Judge Mastriani challenged local communities to see this problem for what it is, and I will quote him. "I could go through town by town and tell you what the drug of choice is at the high schools and the middle schools. A lot of communities say, no, it's not here, it's over there, it's somewhere else. That's not true," end quote. He spoke specifically about the reluctance of school boards to confront this issue. I am here to ask you to take immediate action because this is what the problem calls for. I am talking about the coming school year. I will be specific. First, I ask that you institute a health curriculum that educates students about the dangers of drug use and making better choices in grades 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 through high school. Dr. Ruth Potee, co-chair of the Opioid Task Force of Franklin County, was on the panel, and she said that it is essential to educate children that young because that is when they start experimenting. Believe it or not, there are kids that young that are snorting heroin. If you wait until high school, it is very often too late. That's what she said. She deals with kids every day, and that's what she said. We need this kind of education at the lower grades because the situation is that urgent. And I know from years past, just getting funding for one health teacher in the high school was a battle. So I understand the funding challenges that you all confront every time that you put together a budget. But we need to do this. Second, adjustment counselors should be in all of our schools, especially the middle schools. Third, as Dr. Potee strongly said, in fact, I think she kind of said it at a fairly emphatic way, there is no excuse, that's how she put it, that the anti-overdose drug Narcan should be with every school nurse. And I would ask that the school committee and the superintendent make sure that that is true. Now, I know what I have just described will cost money, but this year is a good year. We are projected to have approximately $1 million in free cash at the end of this fiscal year. I will support, and I will urge others to support at the Springtown meeting, an amendment to next year's budget that will fund this immediate crisis facing our community. But we, as a community, need you to make that proposal specific and to tell us how much it will cost. Thank you.
Any other visitor comments?
Alex, I'm sorry, what was the woman's name that you were speaking of that had from Franklin County?
Sure, it was Ruth Potee, P-O-T-E-E.
Thank you.
Alex, we have a special programs committee that's comprised of about 25 parents and teachers, and we're meeting tomorrow morning, so I'll bring this to the committee to make sure that we're addressing the opiate problem as well as several other ideas they have for a 3-year plan for making sure our kids are healthy.
All right, any other visitor comments? All right, seeing none, I'll call for school committee comments. Michelle?
Yes, I have a couple points to make. Thank you to everybody that came, and thank you to all the people who have contacted me in the past few weeks. I've said many times to many people, thank you for taking the time to share your thoughts and your concerns. I take them all into account before making any of the decisions I am faced with. Please stay involved as you make all of us better informed. Second, in regards to the redistricting process, I believe we have a process here that by its very framework is set up to fail. The redistricting committee has been given an impossible timeline to formulate a solution to a problem that is incredibly emotionally charged and difficult. Like many other districts have displayed, the analysis and development of a redistricting plan is a process that needs to take place over an extended period of time. Businesses and families don't make their most important decisions in a month's time. They plan for them well in advance and address them by way of a thorough and thoughtful process. We should be doing the same, but with the added requirement of complete transparency. Without any discussion, our board has allowed a process to be implemented which has resulted in our community fighting with each other, neighborhoods fighting with other neighborhoods, and neighbors fighting amongst themselves. I do not believe the current emotional debate and negativity in our town is about redistricting itself. I believe it is all about the process and manner in which the discussions are being framed and had. Marie, when you post draft meeting minutes that have not been reviewed or approved and contain many inaccuracies, or you add your opinions to a document and treat them as facts, you are fueling the fire of disinformation and subverting the transparent process. And I once again respectfully request that you take them down. It is in this same reason that I once again request that all redistricting committee meetings be broadcast, whether live or taped, so that all of the community can keep up the realities of these important meetings, and the dissemination of disinformation will have less power to take hold. Further, we have been led to believe that we are in an emergency situation here, and that redistricting needs to happen right now. However, I don't believe there has been complete transparency as to why this is an emergency now versus last year, or the year before, or next year, or the year after. This supposed emergency is what seems to dictate that the grandfathering of all existing students in their current schools cannot be assured, though in my opinion, finding a way to grandfather existing students while simultaneously improving the educational experience for all of the Blueberry students is the only solution that is in the best interest of all of the children and families of this community. And from what I am hearing from parents, the only solution that the majority of the community will get behind. I believe that the vast majority of parents in town, whether they're for Plan A, Plan C, Plan E, or any other, let me be clear, I am not a proponent of any of them, and I believe they are all flawed. I think all of those parents will agree with any plan that allows their children and the other children of our community to complete their elementary education at the school which they currently attend. How all of this has occurred without our board as the district's governing body having any form of a formal discussion at all in regards to this matter is, in my opinion, a disgrace and a disservice to our community, and most important, to the children and families we serve. Our town deserves better, our families deserve better, and our children deserve better. As I said on Tuesday, I see my role as a school committee member to be similar to that of a mother. The students are my children, and the district is my family. Every decision I make, I look to protect their best interests. I don't believe that the process that we are going through right now with redistricting is in any way accomplishing that. I have that for the record, Diane. Thank you.
Kim, did you have anything?
I do. I guess I have said as well about the curriculum question that Michael had mentioned earlier, I guess on Facebook, we all saw it. I want to just call out what I noticed last year, my first year when I came here. I wasn't noticing differences in what the teachers were, the information the teachers were teaching, K through 5. I do believe the kids were getting the same education at each school. It was, in my mind, it was seeing the 4th graders at Wolf Swamp doing a simple machines project, while at Blueberry they were doing it in 5th grade. And I knew that I had been talking about redistricting since the first month I was on school committee, because I noticed how the difference in the enrollment at the 3 schools. And the first thing Marie said to me was that we need to make sure the grades are teaching the same thing at each school before we do that, because if you've got one kid learning one thing in 4th grade and one learning it in 5th grade, you can't switch their schools. Not that we would do that in 4th and 5th grade, but we just needed, and apparently over the summer, the teachers met. I assume the administration met. You talked about it a little bit, and you assured me that it was aligned. So I just want to clear up that little bit, because I know you mentioned it on Facebook, Michael. I kind of reiterated it as well. That was the inconsistencies that I had seen. I also want to just call out some things that I've noticed at Blueberry, and I just don't think that everybody is aware that has been involved in this process. While Center School and Wolf Swamp have K through 5, they have 3 classrooms per each grade, except Center School has 2.5 kindergartners, but essentially they'll have 3 classrooms per grade. Blueberry has 5 first grades, 4 second grades, 5 third grades, 4 fourth grades, and 4 fifth grades. They have the same number of technology teachers, they have the same number of literacy coaches, the same number of math specialists, and the same number of adjustment counselors. So to me, as a parent at Blueberry, it doesn't feel like my child is getting the services that they might be able to get at another school with the same number of kids. I know that I personally met with my reading teacher in what was a closet this past February. So I definitely noticed the overcrowding that's been going on. My son has been complaining to me since the first week of school about the gym being cut in half, and I'm sure that the other PE classes at the other schools are not splitting their gyms in half. I know that it's been a difficult process, and I do agree that it could have been talked about publicly a little bit earlier, but I do want to just express my concern that I think it is something that has to get done this year. As a parent with a child in the school, seeing it's just crowded, and I'm hoping that we can come to a solution that, while I know it's not going to please everyone, will be the best solution for the kids in all of the district. So that was my thoughts on the redistricting. But I have a different question as well. I've had some questions about the fields. Going to change topics.
Switching gears.
Talk about switching gears. I know that the fields, when we redid this, it didn't look like last fall. It looked like it was a bit weedy. I saw some track people out here today, but I'm talking about the football field over here that I know that there seems to be differences of opinions out there who's going to get to use it. I've actually been asked who's going to get to use it. And I mean, but besides the fact that I know, Michael, you called attention to the fact that it looked very weedy. And I just want to make sure that before the whole building process is wrapped up, because I know we're not done, that is taken care of. Because
I can speak to that.
It does. Okay.
So I'm not going to get into who can play on the practice field. I can't, because I don't want to. But this field back here, where the track events are, did not take. And I know that back in October or September, we did have the landscape architect come back out, and it is going to have to be reseeded, and it will have to be rested for about two years. But it did not take for a number of reasons. The front field did take, and I think we should begin playing on it starting in September. It'll be open for use. So right now, I think they're out there because what are you going to do, right? And we also need to have field events for track and field. So that's kind of what's going on with these two fields. But I do know that it is part of the closeout of the building process is making sure that those two fields are corrected. And I know that we'll probably retain the landscape architect on site until, or at least on retainer, until that's good to go.
I spoke with our project manager and the chairs of the building committee 2 weeks ago to ask about that, because Michael's right. In terms of one of the fields not taking, they thought that had to be completely redone. They were coming out again to look at it to reassess that situation. But I agree, we definitely need to keep it on our priority list before we close this deal out. The other field should be ready for play. The kids have not been allowed on the fields because they're still too muddy and murky at this time.
Yep.
What about the fields across the street? Are those open now?
They're just too wet right now for them to play on.
The Parks and Rec department make the call as to when fields are open and usable.
Then why are we on, like they were being used. Sunday.
They've been used for the last 3 days.
Yeah, I mean, when at least like a lacrosse game or something was taking place on Sunday. I don't know if that was.
I'm hoping that was done.
I was hoping not violating it. We don't want to wreck the fields as they are.
It was interesting to see like the caution tape was still kind of like hanging on a little, but they were using.
I'll look into that. Our own students have been using the parking lots. Tom?
Yeah, I'm not sure that the use this weekend was authorized. My understanding was there was one field at the Wolf Swamp Fields that was authorized for use for lacrosse, and that some of the other use that went on was done without
But like,
authorization.
whose responsibility is it to say, "Hey, get off the field"? Like, if it's
I
not.
mean, I think it probably comes from their coach, right?
Yeah, Park and Rec should be monitoring that.
I would hope that there would be communication and collaboration between athletic coaches, whether they're high school, whether they're town coaches, that there would be communication collaboration with Parks and Rec and the town because of field maintenance.
It was rather ironic to see like a police car sitting on the side where the caution tape had moved in the next to the big sign that said field closed and.
Well, I know. Well, I had gotten the email from Parks and Rec reminder the fields are closed, and then I walked by and saw the girls out there, and I thought, oh no.
It must have been a captain's practice or something. I don't know.
Did you have anything else?
Well, then I just wanted to ask a quick question about SEAL, and I don't know if we've had any. I haven't seen any meetings about that this year, and I just wanted to see if that was something on the agenda for the end of the year at one point.
Yeah, I talked to Mark. There have been meetings. He did visit with our technology people to see how to do an all-call. There's another meeting in May. So even though there is a president of SEAL that organizes that, I've asked Mark to take an active role in making sure that our parents are contacted electronically so that they know.
And is there someone that can update the website?
Sure.
Do we control the website?
It's the president of SEAL.
Okay.
Mark, you wanna?
Sorry.
And maybe, Mark, do you want to explain SEAL? I know you're asking questions, but for those who are not familiar with it, or how it's run, or who it's directed by.
I am Mark Oldenburg, Director of Pupil Services here in Long Meadow. And SEAL is the Special Education Alliance of Long Meadow. And it is, it's really an alliance between parents who have children enrolled in special education and the district. And we work collaboratively to review district programming and make improvements and suggestions for the next year. It really is, the role of the district is to help support it by providing space and for myself to meet with them. And really its parents are to set the agenda and to really have greater enrollment and input into what we should be doing for the next year based on our review of our programming. So we've had, over the course of years, and talk with Sue, we've had SEAL people come and go. And I'm experiencing some fluctuation right now. So I did have one parent reach out to us, and I have placed phone calls to that parent. And I think to increase our enrollment, I have done some work with the IT department. And I will be placing an all-call to parents of special education children this week to let them know when the next meeting is in the first week in May. And it'll be here in Pupil Services offices. So they should be hearing hopefully tomorrow. I just want to make sure I'm doing the process correctly before I launch that phone call. So we have had a couple meetings this year, and there has been attendance up to 6 parents. But the last few meetings have been just myself. So we're going to try for some greater enrollment starting in May.
And I think by us using our electronic capacity to email parents and to make that phone call just to our special education parents, I think that will invite more parents to mark it on their calendars and come.
Absolutely. Yeah, this being my first year, I was really just putting notice on the website from time to time and hoping there'd be enrollment through there and word of mouth. And it hasn't been as successful as I thought. So as a learning process, I spoke with the superintendent, and she suggested that I reach out through our means with the phone calls, and I think that's a much better way to go, and we'll see how it goes. We are only required to meet once a year, but I really hope to meet monthly, and I think that is demonstrated to me in the past that that's the best working model between the district and parents, and we can really do some really great work together. So I look forward to that.
Thank you.
Any other questions after that? No? Okay.
Anything else? Katie, did you have anything?
Nope. Thank you.
Michael?
Yeah, I got a couple things. Alex, hopefully Kim answered your question to me for me in an acceptable manner.
For you.
What Kim had said was that different things were taking place at different times at different schools. So at Blueberry, Simple Machines were taking place in fifth grade. At Wolf Swamp, they were taking place at 4th grade. The goal of...
Can I just interrupt you a second? It's, because I was going to clarify when
I get
to mine, but I'll just jump in here.
It's all yours.
Literacy and math are what has been, whether it was the Massachusetts Framework, Common Core, that is set out very specifically. You teach this in this grade level, this in this grade level. Social studies and science the frameworks are ranges. So you may teach simple machines anywhere from 3rd to 6th grade. You can teach American Indians anywhere from this grade to this grade. Those were the things that were different in each school as to, in terms of what Kim and Michael are both saying. They may have been taught at a different grade level, school to school. Both the science curriculum and the social studies curriculum over the last 2 years have been aligned. We've taken the extra step to align those as following the guidelines for English language arts and math. So now that everything within Longmeadow is aligned as one standard for Longmeadow. I'm sorry, continue.
So there you go.
That's
Yep. Well, I just wanted to explain that those were the only differences. It's not that
Yeah.
anybody was getting.
People weren't getting
more-
Algebra 1 in 4th grade at one school and Geometry in 4th grade another, but
I think both Kim and Michael are right, and there are two facets to the overcrowded situation. The first was aligning the curriculum so that our students are having a similar experience. When I came 5 years ago, there were no curriculum reviews. We've done that. The final stage we have for a major curriculum area is science, which will take place next year. We have done math and literacy. You saw a piece of that today with the lively letters. The second piece is we've had changes in program, and if you take a look, we added a technology instructor 3 years ago at each of the schools. That required a technology classroom. In addition, we've added literacy specialists, and they require space to help students and give extra support in literacy. We've also looked at bringing home special education programs, which have saved the district $750,000 by doing that. It's also done a great service for our students by bringing kids home to their neighborhood schools. If you take a look at the programs like that over the last 3 years, that has created a need for more space. So when people say enrollment didn't happen overnight, they're absolutely right. But a change in program and curriculum has made a need for more space within the buildings. We continue to work on curriculum, but we did feel a couple of years ago it would be better for us to have a handle on the curriculum before making any changes in buildings as well. And I did say that to both Kim and Michael.
And I'm sorry to have jumped in on your time.
that's totally fine. So
No, it's not. This is not a give and take. This is not a give and take. Michael, continue.
that's the answer I'm giving you.
This is not a give and take. So please do not ask any more questions. Visitor comments is over. Michael?
Okay. I also, a couple things. I wanted to touch very quickly on what transpired at the select board meeting last week. I am disappointed that the select board did not move forward with our statements of interest. And although this committee was not 100% aligned on where we thought the middle school process should go, I do believe that the statements of interest reflected what this community believed to be true, and I know that we all voted in support of them after all thoroughly reviewing them. And I do know that the statements of interest were written in collaboration with the superintendent. They were not driven entirely by her. They are an update to previous statements of interest that have been approved by the select board, and that there is more going on than I mean, you know, it's politics. The select board they didn't want to approve them, and that's fine. And for a myriad of reasons. Mark Gold probably spoke most specifically about it. Now's not the time, is what he said. Very little to do with anything other than his gauge of the community's appetite. But this board, I think, made the right decision for our middle schools in moving forward with those SOIs, and I would encourage us to do it again next year. With regard to something that I had just heard Michelle talk about, meeting minutes, draft meeting minutes. So guidance provided by the Attorney General's office says that within 10 days, meeting minutes must be provided, even if they're unapproved and in a draft form, especially if they're requested. I personally believe that it's not inappropriate for draft meeting minutes to have been provided in an effort for transparency, which is a word I hear getting thrown around a lot these days. So that's my statement on that. And also, the redistricting process didn't happen overnight. It hasn't happened in a month. In October, this committee convened an enrollment subgroup with Katie, Michelle, and Janet on it. And over those 6 months, they evaluated in open meeting the proposal that was initially given to this committee before we convened a redistricting committee. That's my understanding of how this process took place. That's the process that I agreed to. So that's what I have to say about that. And then with regard to what Alex Grant spoke about, I believe that he is onto something. Western Massachusetts especially is being disproportionately affected by an opiate addiction crisis. I know that that has been a subject of a lot of different policy-making bodies, and I know that that has been the subject of a lot of, the governor's launched a task force, the Senate has launched a task force, our own police department has applied for grants for prescription collection, and I do know that Narcan is something that should be provided to every first responder, every police officer, and every school nurse. Narcan has over a 90% success rate in reversing the effects of opiate overdose. So I believe that Alex is right on the money when talking about the fact that we need to address this, because in our own community we've lost people to opiate abuse overdoses. And that's not something that I want to see continue. I know that it's happening in a disproportionate way across Western Massachusetts, and we need to be addressing that seriously in this community the same way that other communities are beginning to address it seriously. It's gone on for too long. And finally, I want to just kind of talk about some of the tone of this board more recently. I've heard, whether it's been on subcommittees, whether it's been at this meeting, the tone that we've expressed with one another, the direct accusations, the direct insults, the disrespect communicated between members. That's not the way we conduct business. That's not the norms that we agreed to as a board. We're allowed to dissent, we're allowed to disagree, we're allowed to have our own opinions and express them freely, but we're not allowed to make it personal. This is not personal, what we do here. What we do here is we work in the best interest of the community. And that's what we do with every vote that we take. That's what we do whenever we convene as a board, whenever we have subcommittee meetings, whenever we pass policies and budgets. We work in the best interest of the district and the community. And I truly believe that every vote I've taken has been that way. And there has been many times on this board that I've disagreed with my fellow members, especially this guy right here. And it's never been personal. And at the end of the day, we know that we're both here for the same reason. We both know we're here for the right reasons. That's not the type of board that we have right now. The type of board that we have right now is a board that, in some instances, is very interested in throwing each other under the bus, in playing politics and making each other look bad. And that's not who we are. We're not the select board. We're not other communities. That's never what we've done. And we're allowed, like I said, we're allowed to disagree with each other. We're allowed to vote in different directions, and it's of no consequence to our relationships with each other. Because at the end of the day, we're here for the exact same reason. And so I am disappointed with the tone that has been taking place at different committee meetings, both here and at the subcommittee. And that also, that also applies to our attitudes towards the superintendent. I know exactly how hard she works. And I do believe that the superintendent does a great job, and I think that her reviews have been representative of that. I think that we've criticized her where we need to criticize her. I think we've been fair to her when we need to be fair. But I also believe, very similar to what some of the comments were made here tonight, that this committee is well aware of the role that she plays in the district. I'm well aware of the role that she plays. And I've always, in my opinion, exerted the type of leadership that we need to with regard to her. But I do take issue with coming to a school committee meeting and directly calling her out and insulting her in front of the community. I take direct issue with that. I am very, very okay with her being criticized, but I am not okay with accusations being lobbed. And that's pretty much all I have to say about that.
John?
Yes. First of all, I'm the senior member of this committee in terms of age and residents in the community. I've been here living in Long Meadow since 1976. And redistricting has always been a contentious topic. And if you want to look at one that was really rough, when we went from 5 elementary schools to 3, when we closed Converse and Green Meadow.
Greenwood.
What?
Greenwood.
Greenwood. Now it's a meadow. It used to be a wood. Okay. So there's a problem there. And part of it is politics, I guess. As Joe Napolitan, a great political science observer, pointed out, perception is reality for a lot of people. That's also the motto of real estate agents. And I think it's real estate people who have been promoting this myth the myth that Blueberry Hill School is the alpha school, and that the other two are either Bravo or Charlie, depending on your whim. This committee has been working for a number of years to standardize curriculum, maintain teacher evaluation in all the schools so that we're offering to all the students what they should be getting. And that follows from our Eyes on the Child policy. I share what Michael just said about unfairly criticizing the superintendent. The superintendent is a professional. The superintendent is a person who has been through redistricting. And she put forth a plan and then forthrightly allowed the community to comment on it. I haven't made up my mind on which plan I'm going to support, but I'm leaning towards Plan A because it creates neighborhood schools or tries to maintain neighborhood schools. That's one of the big things for it. I know there's pluses and minuses with everything. So another reality we have to confront is Blueberry Hill School is overcrowded. We have space in Center School, and that's a natural, that's addition and subtraction. That's not calculus. You just move people, okay? So, enough on that. I support the drug education program that Alex was putting forward. I really question whether we need to get into the elementary schools with this, but maybe as part of some general health program. But certainly I would see it as part of the middle school program. There's a lot of television programming aimed at children, especially teenagers, that celebrates a drug culture in that whole climate. So yes, we should be picking up on that. And I want to fire a final shot at the select board for shooting down our statement of interest. As far as I know, only one member of the select board actually toured the schools to look at the conditions and make their judgment on the basis of empirical data. And as Michael said, and in this case I'm in agreement, it's a little bit of politics here. So that's it.
Liz?
I'm all set.
I forgot to express my disappointment with the vote as well.
Okay.
And I just want to, just to Michael's point, because I hope that it hasn't seemed like anything I've done here is personal. I think I'm trying to stick as much to the facts as I can. In regards to my involvement with redistricting from October, I just want to clarify again that I had one meeting, it was in October, and then I had no involvement until the first new formation of the redistricting. So, in terms of me, and that's all I want to speak to, I wasn't involved for that 6-month process. So I don't want it to go on record that I was. I just need to clarify that.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right, anyone else? Okay. We'll move on to your report.
Chris Collins, principal of Williams Middle School, is retiring at the during this year. He has served Longmeadow well over the past 7 years as a respected leader in the community. He's always strived to do what is best for the students and staff, and he'll be missed by many of us. Susan Bertrand is going to be overseeing a search process under the guidance of the team. We met today, developed a timeline. We've identified members of the committee for the hiring process. We posted last week. We already have 8 applicants for the job to date, so that we will be doing that. We hope to have a new principal appointed by the beginning of June.
Can I ask a question about that?
Sure.
So I know that we're kind of like in a bad spot of the year for hiring. I don't want to necessarily ask how strong the pool is, but do we have a contingency plan if, very similar to the Glenbrook search last year, we end up with no suitable candidates?
We do.
Okay.
We will definitely have a backup plan for that. I'm optimistic with the pool to date, and it's only been open for a week.
Okay.
So hopefully we'll be seeing a different situation, but I think all of us are a little bit nervous given how poor the pool was when we opened up for Glenbrook.
Yeah, no, I mean,
But it
being on
turned
that,
out well. Nicole's doing a fabulous job.
it turned out really well. Nicole is really killing it over there, and I'm incredibly happy that we recently appointed her as the full-time principal. Is there going to be school committee representation on the search committee?
Yes, we need a school committee member, and that's next on
perfect.
the announcement. So, Janet, would you like to ask for a volunteer now?
Sure. Oh my, okay, before I even get the words out, Katie's volunteering.
We
Is there
should probably
anything
say
else?
that interviews take place during the school day.
As long as I've noticed to get some.
Okay. Was
We
there,
have the dates.
was there anyone else who was interested?
I would like to, but I don't
need
have.
more than one person?
No, I just wanted to make sure that anybody who was interested.
One's pretty good because it's a large committee where you have teacher representation, parent representation, administrative representation.
Just email me that date so I get it.
Okay. Thank you, Katie.
My pleasure.
We've discussed redistricting. The public forum is tomorrow. Attached to your handout, you have a draft of the presentation. We've added some enrollment data since this was run off. And there's also a handout sheet that parents will get when they come to the forum. It has the maps of the 3 proposals as well as a protocol for the evening.
One question I had, and this is no criticism because I know you got the maps from me. People have been asking for maps that have more street names on them, and I know E is a larger area. Would it be possible to enlarge E and do it on the reverse side so that it's still only one handout, but where you can actually read some street names?
Or did you print them all already?
You printed them all already?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to add many more street names, just so you know.
Okay.
It's Google Maps. So when you zoom in and to try to get a certain area, so if you come way out,
Right.
they go away.
But
You
I know that
zoom
the ones
in,
I
you
had
get- you lose
sent
the-
give a little bit more, but that's okay. If it can't, it can't.
I will try it to see
Okay,
what it does.
just asking.
Would it be
'cause
helpful to add the list of streets to the back?
That's a couple pages.
Oh, okay.
So, that's all I was
Really
asking. Yeah, I know, really teeny. Bring your reading glasses, is what we're saying.
Okay. Do we have a color one of Plan A? Oh, I see it, okay.
I know, this is kind of, is it too late to bring in like a consulting group to help us with this so that we don't take the heat for all this?
Too late for the heat part.
I would definitely support that.
I mean, I know, sorry.
I think that would be a very good
I
investment.
thought I would just ask the group because I know we want to make a decision by May 11th. So I don't know if that timing is too, but I just feel like there's a lot, I stood in the church parking lot today and heard about neighborhoods being, like, neighbors being mad at each other for their differences of opinions and things. And, I mean, I've never lived through a redistricting. I've always just moved from one state to another or town to another.
It's easier that way, doesn't it?
But not because of overcrowding, but so I've never been in one place long enough to have to live through this, but I've heard it was a nightmare. And
They're always emotionally charged on, it's a very sensitive topic. People love their schools. It's always hard when you're asking a child to.
right, and I completely, I see it and I hear it, and I just, I don't, I don't know. I just wanted to throw it out because, I don't know if it's too late, if it would be too much of a rush. We just heard Alex Grant say they're going to have some free cash in the spring town meeting. I don't know.
It's late in the process. It would prolong the
I know.
agony for the town if you do that.
I don't know how long that's
Yeah,
the
but
thing. I don't know how long it takes.
That
I
free
know.
cash isn't going to get certified until
Till
fall.
July, right? So that
No, not
doesn't
even till
work.
fall.
October, sorry. So never mind. So
I
not about
don't
the
even
free
think
cash.
it's a matter
but-
of money. I think it's a matter of prolonging the agony for the town.
Well, that's the thing. I don't want to prolong it because I don't want the process to be moved until the following year. And I know that we have contracts we need to let teachers know by June 1st. And I mean, for the kids, we really need to let them know. I would love to let them know sooner than that.
And for the transition team
And
to
for the
be able to continue their planning.
Right. I mean, yes. And so I don't know. I mean, I know that.
What if somebody could come in and do it quickly? Is there any way we could?
Do we have to go to bid? Do we have an RFP process?
It would depend on the price of the consultant.
So we've got up to 30,000, right?
There are
Before we have
thresholds
to-
in which different requirements kick in based on the
Is that
amount.
30B?
Yes, Massachusetts law 30B.
I don't know.
We can certainly bring in a consultant to advise school committee. We can look to NESDEC, who is an organization that does enrollment studies and does things such as that. If you'd like me to do that, I can arrange a meeting.
What if we
How
just
would
even
we
make
go
a
about-
phone call to, you just Googled up a place.
Right. I just called this company up, but I don't know if they do some things out of Ohio. I don't know if
MASC probably has
student
some
trends and enrollment
resources.
projections. They work with the Ohio State University. So I don't know if is a company like that here in
So
Massachusetts.
I'm just looking at like, the news stories that pop up when you Google redistricting consultants, and Newton, which I know has been thrown around, said that they're, in December, their redistricting consultant said that they could have an answer for them by the end of the school year. So I think that it's a longer.
The ship sailed.
Yeah.
I think they'd be walking in mid-process. I think it would be difficult.
Is it a phone call? Could we just call them and
I can
see?
call, sure. Sure.
I mean, does the committee, I mean, I don't want to be the only one, like
Well, I
two of us
support it.
versus 7. Like, I don't know. I don't want to be the only one on the committee that says, hey, let's just make this phone call. It just feels,
I think it's worth making a phone call.
Right. I don't
Okay.
think a phone call would hurt. I'm just not sure if where we are in the process would.
well, let's ask them.
Right.
I mean,
but we
let's-
won't know unless we ask.
I mean, we all know how we think, but you never know until you make the phone call.
Absolutely. No.
So I thought.
Nothing hurts with a phone call.
Who's the company that you were looking at?
DeJong and Richter.
There's another one, Main Street Communications. I mean, I just Googled
Maybe you could,
enrollment.
I'll send those to Maureen, of what you're finding, so that we can.
Sorry.
That's okay. No, 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 no,
Just-
no. But no,
No,
I'm
well,
glad you
we-
brought it up. I just don't think that we need to.
I don't want to go on and on about it. I just want to,
Mm-hmm.
while you're talking about it.
Okay.
Marie, I have a question on the math for Proposal A. Is Farmington Avenue both sides of the street?
Yes, sir.
And is Laurel Street both sides?
No. It is the west side.
Just the west side?
And Long Meadow Street is the east side.
And the west side? Okay, so currently people on the east side of Long Meadow Street go to Blue Hill.
North, south, east, yes.
Okay.
Sorry, I have to figure out my directions. Yes. Everyone within that black line, John, currently goes to Blueberry Hill. That includes if they're on, if you're looking at the map, the left side of Laurel Street, the
Yeah,
right side
yeah,
of
yeah.
Long Meadow Street.
Okay,
Okay?
thank you.
Okay.
SOIs?
I'd like to thank the school committee for their support on the statement of interests. Stephen Crane, the town manager, has offered to work with us to bring in a firm to take a look at what the buildings need so that they can do a study and find out exactly what the steps should be for capital improvement. The middle school technology labs have been updated. There are brand new computers in them. They went in during February vacation, but it's great to see them being utilized. Teachers report that they're able to expand the curriculum because they have the updated technology available.
Marie, I'm sorry. Did you say that we're going to pay to bring someone in to do some studies? Is that?
The town is, yes. The town offered to fund this.
The town of Long Meadow is going to fund. Okay.
Town manager offered to fund a study.
Best of luck.
Well, also, are we going to take another look at our capital project lists now that we're going in one direction? I mean,
we're told that we can't do the projects that we put forward because, we could possibly build a new middle school, like,
Right.
in 100 years.
well, I
Can we-
remember the boiler last year was a very sore subject. We had wanted a new boiler, but they specifically put in parts instead of a brand new one, knowing that we were going to be submitting this SOI, and then claimed this year they didn't even know we were going to be doing this. So
they can't get it both ways.
Yeah. Well,
they can't say no to capital projects and then say no to the
I mean,
SOI.
listen, they made a decision that ultimately has financial ramifications, and that's kind of a message I think we all deliver to them. The roofs on the buildings are at the end of their lives. The boilers are approaching end of life. There's asbestos glue under the tiles. There's who knows what in the walls. They're not ADA accessible. We barely have enough electrical service at Williams to support the technology you're talking about right now. I mean, to tell me that we're going to hire a consultant and be told something we don't know.
But I think the point of it is none of us are building inspectors,
Right.
contractors.
Right, I guess my...
To know, I mean, we can all
No, I
speculate.
agree. We need a
that
professional opinion on it.
Right.
I think what
Wasn't
we
it
did is we
yes.
proposed to them
Yes.
the opportunity to have the state come in,
Correct.
reimburse us for those studies, and get a full engineering study of both buildings. They're choosing to pay for it. So hey, You know, that's
Correct.
if that's how they would like to use taxpayer dollars, then I will let them do what they want to do.
As a taxpayer, that infuriates me.
I wish we had gotten funding for feasibility, but at least this is a step so that we can begin to plan capital projects. We have been on hold. We do need to make some decisions, and at least we could have a list ready.
Problem is that if we actually end up start repairing these things that need to be repaired, which is obviously in the best interest of the buildings,
Then it puts
it's gonna be another 40 years before we get around to having this conversation about middle school. So we're kind of locked into this pattern of either we're going to put a lot of money into these buildings to make them usable and suitable for what we need, or we're going to let them, you know, we're going to put the minimal amount of maintenance in, and the town's going to continue to deny funding for the larger projects that need to take place, and we're going to be in a position like we are right now, where we're not able to do what we need to do, and the select board's not supportive of moving forward.
And I have to say, talking to some parents at Williams, I'm not there yet, but it already feels like that the school has been neglected, with the idea that we were going to be getting a new one at one point and moving towards a new one.
I think
and
that's.
so
I think that we've got to be careful in how we characterize that, because when it comes to the larger capital improvements that need to be made, the answer is yes. There's not been substantial investment in those. There's been tile replacements. There hasn't been roof replacements in a long time. We have a very minimal boiler replacement. There's been electrical service upgrades. But with regard to the day-to-day maintenance of the buildings, they are being taken care of and maintained. We're not letting them, fall apart. We're doing what needs to get done. The problem is you're dealing with buildings that are 60 years old and haven't had any substantial maintenance done to them, or capital improvement made to them. That's the issue. It's not that we're not doing what we need to do. I mean, Williams is a very clean school, and Don does a great job. So
Right.
we have to be careful in how we characterize that.
It's not saying that the custodial staff is not doing a great job, but it's very much like trying to bail yourself out of like a sinking
they're
ship with
putting
like a spoon as
the
like
lipstick
your,
on a pig metaphor there.
Yeah, I mean, and now that it's warmer again, I was informed that it was a lovely warm day, so that the school smelled bad again. Like,
Hey, at least you guys have air conditioning. Glenbrook doesn't.
Yeah, well, I mean, we didn't even talk about the safety issues at Glenbrook, so.
Moving on.
Okay. But we will have more information on that as we work with town manager on bringing someone in. Finally, the Special Programs Committee is meeting tomorrow. We have an ambitious agenda for the next 3 years to plan what programs we're going to bring for parents, students, and staff. I will bring back Alex's concerns. I know that that has been a concern. I know that one of the most recent trends are the new cigarettes, the electronic cigarettes. They're actually putting drugs in the liquid form and they're using those. So that's a great increase in our community as well as other communities. So I think Alex's points are well taken. It's something that I'll bring back to the Special Programs Committee.
That's it. Any other questions for Marie?
So, I don't have a question for Marie necessarily, but I forgot to say it during my school committee comments. Can I interject before yours? It might tie into yours. It's going to be quick.
Okay, quickly.
I know that an email went around to the board asking for proposed dates to potentially vote on a redistricting plan. And I would just request that, listen, I think we've all gotten a lot of correspondence with a variety of opinions. And the one thing that I know has kind of rung through those emails is the public wants to know what's going to happen. And so I would request that we schedule a vote on that following the forum, and I would like to put some, not necessarily urgency on the redistricting subcommittee, but I would like to encourage them to, take the comments and proceed with making a recommendation for this committee by May 11th. I think that's probably the appropriate date given the constraints we have on time, the availability of members the week of the 18th, and the constraints we have given the contract. Either that or just throw it out and, but I don't think that's a good solution at this point, given how far we are into it, because it just
makes it go.
Extends the conversation another year, so.
Okay.
Does that require a motion? That we set?
No, you're suggesting.
I'm requesting.
Well, just to put it on the calendar that we're going to vote on the redistricting on the 11th of May.
I think it is on our, I don't know, didn't I see something that
Well, I'm
said-
asking you as chair to schedule the vote for then.
For our vote, the school committee vote.
School committee vote. Okay. I can certainly hope, I know that the redistricting committee has, with the forum tomorrow night, has a meeting scheduled for Thursday to debrief and go through information that's garnered from the forum. And then we have 3 more meeting dates scheduled in case we need them. And those meeting dates are all prior to May 11th, if I remember correctly. So
Yeah.
I would hope that a recommendation would come forth by then.
Right. I mean, I think the one thing that we need to continue to keep in mind is that this committee, on an individual basis, has been making itself aware of all the conversations. I know that every single one of us was at the last meeting you had
Right.
last week.
Right.
So the information
No, and that
that's-
is true, is
yeah.
that you guys have really made an effort to stay well-informed of what's going on.
without
such
interjecting
as-
ourselves into the middle of it. But
Yes.
So I think that, and I'm speaking for myself and myself alone, but I do believe that, that I'm not expecting to read a report that tells me anything that I haven't already witnessed at a meeting.
And I think
essentially.
that, I think Donna Hutton said it best at one of our earlier meetings, is that, she really hopes that a decision can be made because she is looking forward to welcoming students into her school and coming up with a thoughtful transition plan that she wants to make sure that she has enough time to implement. So I think that, your request, couples with hers, it's something that we need to be very considerate of on all counts. The public's concern about what's going to happen, the timeline that we have for contractual obligations. John?
Well, to tie it together then, I'd like to make a motion that we vote on redistricting on the 11th, at our 11th of May meeting.
Okay, there's a motion.
Second.
Katie, you second? Any further discussion? Okay, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Opposed?
Abstaining.
Abstaining? Okay, so the motion passes.
Fine.
Right, Diane? It was a pass? Okay. All right, can we do financial report, and then I can do the transportation presentation?
Okay, well, Finance Subcommittee met on April 8th, 2015, and we reviewed the budget transfer request, and I believe that's in your packet, and it's here for your approval. Pretty much routine stuff. Tom's here if you have any questions.
Liz, do
If
you
not,
want to?
question?
Do you want to
No.
move?
I'll make a motion.
Motion.
I move at the recommendation of the Finance Subcommittee that the school committee approve the budget transfers as outlined in the document titled FY15 General Fund Number 2 dated April 8th, 2015.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions for Tom?
Oh, seems pretty standard.
You have a lot of legal counsel transfers.
Can I ask a question about the utility line again?
Sure.
So I'm assuming. So, are we? What gives? I guess is my question about that line item transfer.
Well, as you recall, as
cold
part
winter?
of the reconciliation of the FY15 budget, we had a request to increase that line, but in order to balance the budget, we agreed to level fund it. Now,
I
we
remember
would
that.
go back to the town and ask for more funds, but to date, and based on the projections of our natural gas use at the high school, I don't foresee a need to ask for additional funding from the town to support that. Instead, I'm recommending that we transfer money, existing balance from the natural gas line to the electricity line for the high school.
Have we seen any significant increases in our natural gas pricing or costs?
The current contract we are in expires in October.
So we're about to get hit hard.
So next season, which we did plan for in terms of our budget for an increase, we won't know the exact price probably until mid-summer or late summer, but we did an estimated increase based on cost per therm for next fiscal year.
Okay, great. That's all I have.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Next item, the Finance Subcommittee reviewed the grant and special revenue revision and presented here for your approval. In your packet.
I move on the recommendation of the Finance Subcommittee that the school committee approve the budget revision as outlined in document titled FY15 Grants and Special Revenues Number 2 dated April 8th, 2015.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any questions or comments?
Just one.
Of course.
Of course. Athletic banners, is that for the gym?
Yeah, so
Okay.
I was going to address this if it wasn't asked. So, Finance Sub, we received a request from the high school to replace the athletic banners that hung in the old gym. We still have the old banners, but for consistency in size and shape, to present them in the new gym, there was a request to replace them. And
Especially because you can't really hang them from anything.
they'll have to hang from the rafters. They won't be affixed to the wall like they were in the old gym. So instead of funding coming from the athletic revolving account, felt it might be more appropriate for use of school choice funds, which is discretionary for school committee use. And so it was proposed through Finance Sub to amend the budget to pay for the replacement and provide expansion where those are very close or need multiple banners for a sport.
I agree with the funding source on that. I think if we were to talk about taking it out of athletic revolving, we'd be hearing from some parents who are angry that they have to pay their boosters. And quite honestly, I think that I think that our boosters support our athletics enough, maybe too much sometimes. I think that the burden is on them for a little bit too much on occasion, and so I'm supportive of this rather than putting the burden on the high school funds.
And I think the other point to clarify that was discussed at Finance Sub is that we're not getting rid of the old banners. We heard that some schools do auction them off to get the money to pay for new ones. We didn't think that that was necessarily appropriate, but they will still be displayed, whether in the back hallways, by the locker rooms, and/or above or in the trophy showcases. So it's not that the old ones are going to be destroyed, stuffed in a closet, or gotten rid of. They're still going to be there. This is just for the uniformity in the gym itself.
No, I think it's a good thing. You can't go to a game in that gym without having at least one or two parents ask you where are all the banners, especially ones who have had other kids go to high school or ones that came here themselves. So I'm supportive of that.
Any other questions? All right, seeing none, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor? Okay. Were there any other subcommittee was there anything else from Finance Sub that needed to be brought up?
No, that's it.
Okay. Were there any other subcommittee?
Was there a building use, but that was no, there wasn't.
There was, but it was the finance subcommittee had the authority to approve it.
To make that one. Cool. All right. We've had the statement of interest update. We've had enough redistricting updates. Any other subcommittee updates that anybody would like to report on? I know policy met this evening.
Policy met this evening to review the wellness policy update. Liz and I voted 2-0, and so it'll be on the agenda for the next meeting for first reading. What I was informed of tonight, which I didn't know, is that the wellness policy needs to be reviewed every year, and revisions need to be made at least every 3 years. And so in accordance with that, is that correct? Good. In accordance with that, that's the genesis of this. I think the wellness committee should be commended on the work that they did in referring that policy to us. We had literally 0 revisions, and I think it fits in line with the values that we share as a community. So, looking forward to presenting that at the next meeting.
Okay. Kim, did you have an energy?
We did have an energy meeting this week. We talked about solar panels. We're looking for a company that will be able to give us some quotes on solar panels
for both the town and the schools.
town and the schools. There's plenty that do it on homes, but we're looking, and I know John sent us a link for municipalities, and then we're just kind of examining a couple of other ideas that we have for the elementary schools. We're going to talk with Chris Reed about some things, and talk about insulation and lights again.
Okay. Any other subcommittee that I missed?
I just have a comment. For our green team, we haven't met for a really long time, and I just wondered if anybody had any suggestions or anything that they wanted us to talk about, because I kind of feel that we've done some really good things in the last couple of years that the committee's been meeting, and I don't know where to go from here.
And you've kind of, gotten all of those in
it's
place.
kind of melded with
group.
the energy group. So the things that I wanted to do were also a green idea. So
maybe
anybody has anything, please let me know.
So, and maybe when we look at committee restructuring for next year,
Right.
maybe that would be something.
Maybe it can be joined or something.
Yeah.
Combined,
Because
melded.
there were some recycling things that we did, that you did on the green
Yeah.
team, but I don't know that that would classify as an energy thing, but maybe
But maybe it could be combined into one.
Because it is the same people.
John?
Yeah, I would support putting some more emphasis on, well, like solar, and that belongs with energy, it also belongs, excuse me,
Green.
with the green team.
Right. So maybe we can somehow work
Have
those
you
together.
been able to do anything on solar?
And that there's every company that we've been reaching out to, they're really only residential.
And we have
So-
one company
Did you
that
get
I
my
guess
email?
Tom
Yeah, I
talked to that
haven't
does
done
leasing,
anything about
but
that
we
yet.
want to look at both options, leasing versus purchasing, because
Right.
I know Tom's done a lot of research
Or what about
on
like
that.
what about like a PPA, like a power purchasing agreement?
Something we could look at.
Okay. Well, one of the things I would suggest would be to, and I know Marie Angelides, who's on that committee, and sorry for not making the last meeting, I got stuck in meetings, but the Hampshire Council of Governments and actually Lower Pioneer Valley, not Lower Pioneer Valley Collaborative, Pioneer Valley Planning Commission are both really good resources for municipal vendors. And I know that they would be probably excited to help us at least find those vendors. Those are good resources rather than like Googling, because who knows how many residential vendors we're going to call before we strike on one who does schools. And more importantly, these two organizations specialize in municipal and government-related stuff. So there may be programs available that we're not aware of yet. I know that Mass Solar is in its second phase of incentives. I know that the district might be able to actually benefit from that from a financial standpoint, some of those programs out there. Those are two things that I think would be worth talking, two organizations I think would be worth talking to. And I'm happy to reach out to Pioneer Valley Planning Commission and even Council of Governments, although I think that Marie might have a better relationship with them.
If you, you can reach out or
Yeah,
give
either
me.
one.
I'm happy to call someone.
Okay.
I forgot there was one other thing we did talk a little bit about, and I think Marie Angelides may want to come in May and just kind of give us a little bit
Just trying
more
to get on this
information
committee.
about it. We're trying to become a complete streets designated town, and from my understanding, she needs to create a little bit more buzz, and I think she's going to come to the bike swap on April 25th and kind of talk to some people about that as well. But what it does is, whenever we redo a street, it will assure us that somehow it would have made sure that we would put a sidewalk on the side of the street and make it maybe a walkable place as well as just a street. I guess we redid a street recently, I'm not sure where, but she said if we were a complete street designated town, we would have been forced to put a sidewalk there. And then I know just myself walking around town, there are a lot of like sidewalks that end, and I don't know why. So I think that would be, as we go and we work on the infrastructure in our town and we rebuild the streets in this town,
It would kind of go hand in
it would
hand.
go together. And so more to come on that, but
Okay.
I'm starting the discussion around the town about it now.
You're doing your part. All right, so Transportation Subcommittee is presenting tonight about their recommendation to the school committee for policy change. Again, it's just the presentation this evening. Happy to answer questions, have comments. We will not be voting to approve this until next meeting. So if there's anyone watching who has comments, concerns, wants to still communicate, please do so, because we are taking those up until we will vote at our next meeting. So I'll move over there, and Sue, you're so kind enough to do my PowerPoint. All right, so the Transportation Subcommittee formed this year and was charged with reviewing our current transportation services, looking at their effectivenesses both operationally and financially. And this all came about with being made aware of some needs for transportation services for Williams Middle School, where there had been none before, from an area of town that is greater than 2 miles for 6th grade students. So we started in the late fall. We've had 6 meetings between December and March, and we had a public forum on January 21st in order to gather community input. We looked at legal obligations, we looked at route coverage, what the ridership is, how much it costs to operate, the fees we charge for our services, and the registration process that we currently use. I know this is really small. All this is a copy of what's exactly in our policy EEAA, which is on our website in our policy manual. And it explains who we're required to transport by Massachusetts general law, which is we are legally obligated to provide transportation for any child in grades K through 6 who live greater than 2 miles from their school. We are also required to transport children whose doctor has certified without they would have a problem getting to school, and that's done through pupil services and the superintendent. We do provide bus services for a fee for students not eligible in that K through 6 greater than 2 mile range if they have access to established bus stops. And that is done on a registration basis annually. Just to be clear, we are not talking about bus services that are provided for our Metco students, and we are not changing any bus services for our Wolf Swamp students. Those are our elementary students right now. Wolf Swamp is the only location that there is busing provided to, as both Center and Blueberry, their enrollment area is all within a 2 mile radius. So currently, we have use of 5 buses. We have 3 buses running at the high school, both in the morning and the afternoon. We have 2 buses for Glenbrook and Williams, both morning and afternoon. 1 bus for Wolf Swamp, morning, afternoon. We use a bus for the Greenwood after-school program. A bus is what is termed as the late bus for Glenbrook and Wolf Swamp in the afternoon. And we also have 1 bus that becomes available for athletic needs. And how we can provide all of this is because of the staggered start and stop times of the different schools. So in looking at the routes haven't been changed in a number of years. So we've had a route, its stops are there, and then we figure out, Tom works to figure out how to get students to the stop, rather than to figure out who our ridership is and then determine stops that way. So as a committee, we all felt that that's kind of a backwards way of doing things, and moving forward, that our route should be determined on the enrolled ridership, not we're going to determine a route and ridership, you have to figure it out. So currently, 201 students have bus passes for this school year. Out of those, 130 are paid for, and 71 students are provided transportation at no charge. So there's obviously a need for, from the community for students either who live less than 2 miles or who are in grades 7 through 12 who do need busing services. Cost-wise, each bus does cost approximately $50,000 per year to operate. So annually, we're looking at about $250,000 to provide regular education transportation. And I know at the forum and others have asked the question of, well, could we save some money and get smaller buses, for areas that aren't in need? And Tom has explained that that's not really the case. You're paying for the bus, the driver, the maintenance, the gas, that it's not going to be a savings to have a smaller bus. So looking at the current fee schedule, for those who do not live more than 2 miles or who are in grades 7 through 12, the cost is $175 each year for a bus pass, and this fee has remained constant for the last 6 years. Now, for this school year, the fee generates approximately $22,000, which is a very small portion of the $250,000 that it costs to operate the buses. So when people are under the impression that they're paying for bus services, they're paying for a small portion of what it costs to run those services. And currently, families are allowed to register for bus passes through the first 2 weeks of the school year. If we want to change and create effective routes, we're going to have to change the process of registration, which we're going to address as part of our proposal.
Can I ask a question?
Sure, John.
Do we advertise the availability of bus transport? Like, can we say that every family in Long Meadow knows its bus rights, so to speak?
The policies and the explanations are on our website under transportation. Do we actively go out and advertise that we have busing? No, we do not. Tom, you might want to
No,
address.
but for those that are eligible for transportation, we mail them a bus pass at the beginning of the year. So students in grades K through 6 who live more than 2 miles will receive a bus pass to allow them to be transported.
Okay.
The information has been on our website in terms of what the routes are and the registration process and so on. So, but we don't actively go out and notify people that they can come and register.
If I could follow up on that. Is there a percentage of those folks who get notified who take us up on it? It's like,
I think
it's 100%?
Yeah,
50%?
I think it's a high percentage of the individuals who are eligible to be transported take advantage of it.
Yeah.
So.
Because, well, one concern, and it's not a bus problem, but it's these long queues that we see outside of schools of parents in the wintertime, and they're idling their engines to keep the occupants warm, and then they're running their air conditioning in the warmer period. Our bus transportation policy should alleviate that, shouldn't it? Or should it? Is that just a matter of personal choice?
I mean, I can only speak with some conjecture about that more than anything else, but you know, I think that we, you know, through this process are attempting to encourage people to utilize services available. And I know Janet hasn't gotten there yet, but we would be proposing on a first come, first served basis. And you know, to move any further than that is going to start adding money to us or to our budget. The question we need to ask is the one that you just kind of asked yourself: is, you know, who's going to use it more than the people who have kind of expressed interest to us. And my own opinion on that, my own sort of view is that the people who are driving their kids to school now, by and large, prefer to do that. You know, and I think that if they were looking for alternative routes, they would notify us, and I think some of them have, and that's why we began this process. But I do believe, and I'm speaking just based on a very sort of anecdotal evidence that I've witnessed, is that, you know, some parents like to be there at the end of the day for their students, and some of them like to be there in the morning, and sometimes they arrange their entire day around that. So, you know, I think it's a matter of preference at the end of the day. You know, certainly if there was a lot of interest and we saw that we could add another bus and it would be completely full, I'm sure that that's something we would consider. Although Tom's not happy that I said that out loud.
So in looking at routes, since we wanted to get away from here's the route, let's fit our riders into it, we looked at different options. One of them being utilizing main roads only, one of them being a combination of main roads and side streets, and one, of course, leaving things the way they are and making no changes to the current routes. Safety, of course, remains a primary concern. routes would be strategically placed, and routes would be created and stops strategically placed where there are crosswalks or stoplights and or crossing guards. And once new routes were developed through our busing service, which is through LPVEC, who works with us to create the routes, we will most certainly vet those with the police department to see if any changes, tweaking, safety issues that they can see from what we're doing. Tom?
And I just want to add, where we say main roads only, there might be times when the bus will go into a neighborhood, especially where we are transporting students that legally need to be transported. So where kids live more than 2 miles, the bus most likely will go down a side street and to turn around to come back in the direction towards the school. So I just want to make sure we're clear about that the bus might be seen on a side street. So I would say it will be primarily main roads, that we're not going to have our buses driving up and down side streets for the most part.
So for the forum that we held in January, there were approximately 35 people who attended. The concerns that we heard from, the main concerns that we heard, not only from the forum, but from the emails we've received, is that people would like a busing option for Williams Middle School. There was concern about the proposal of having middle school and high school students riding the same bus. Student safety, of course, was raised. John, I think this speaks to what you were asking about. They were suggesting we market the service. People don't know it's available, and if we advertised it, we'd have more ridership. It was thought that maybe if changing the start times of the high school and or middle school, we could allow for high school students, middle school students to ride together. The Greenwood after-school program raised a lot of concerns, as did need for services for the 7th through 12th grade students who would not qualify for any busing services. So our initial proposal, which did go out as a letter from the superintendent, was stating that the same number of buses will be utilized, but we're going to expand our services. The routes would run primarily along main streets, to Tom's points. Students wouldn't cross main roads unless there was a crossing guard or a stoplight. High school and middle school students would be transported together with a division of middle school students sitting in the front, high school students sitting in the rear of the bus, having different color badges, lanyards, so that the bus drivers could distinguish. Discipline would be taken seriously, handled by the principals. The bus drivers would go through some more training before school opened with having the combined ridership. High school students would be dropped off at the rear entrance to the high school to avoid contributing to the traffic at the front. And we were talking about changing start times. The bus fees were also discussed, and the recommendation was raising the fee from $175 per student per year to $225 per student for next year, with a family cap of 2 students, or $450. So that was the initial proposal that went out. We let the community give feedback on that. Sue? Sorry. We received a lot of concerns regarding start times and the combined ridership. Those were the 2 primary issues that we heard about from community members. We then heard from the town manager and chief of police with one thing that we had not considered, which is increased costs for crossing guards, since there would now be a longer time on duty, since we were moving up the start times in the morning, and they would be going longer. And that was to the tune of about $47,000 increase in the crossing guard budget, which the police department does not have in their budget, nor had we accounted for. And quite honestly, we hadn't thought about that. So I was very glad that the initial proposal went out and we heard from all these component members of the community.
The
go ahead.
The other thing that the police chief and John Stankwitz had mentioned was that the start times that we had proposed initially would mean that Williams parents and high school parents are arriving in the same area at the exact same time, causing an even bigger issue, depending on who you ask, of a lot of traffic, making it even more unsafe in certain areas.
So the committee revised its initial proposal, and this revised proposal was sent out on April 1st, and this is the proposal that we're bringing forth as our recommendation for school committee to vote on and adopt. We are not combining ridership. Buses will be assigned by school levels, so middle school students would only be on a middle school bus, high school students would be on a high school bus. School times will not be changing. However, in order to accommodate both of these options, and knowing that the same number of buses are utilized and services expanded, again, the routes will run primarily along main streets. Again, students would not cross main roads unless there is a crossing guard and or stoplight crosswalk present. The length of the route would be determined by the number of stops, and that then would depend upon ridership. We are looking to create efficient routes that have consolidated stops, which may mean that a student may have to walk a block or two to get to their bus stop. We are not having a bus stop at every single corner or every single house. Service for students in grades 7 through 12 will be provided transportation on a first-come, first-served basis. There are limited seats on each bus. Each bus holds about 50 students comfortably at the middle and high school level. No bus passes would be distributed until the bus fee is paid in full. And again, we're proposing the bus fee for next school year to be $225 with a family cap of $450. We cannot promise what fees would be in subsequent years, though we're trying to keep it as reasonable as possible, understanding the impact.
So, can I?
Yes.
If the family calls and makes arrangements that, for whatever reason, they can't pay the fee in full, but they reach out to us and say, you know, here's the schedule that I can afford, can we give them a bus pass?
Yeah, so long as it's agreed upon schedule.
Okay. So as long as they, you know,
Yes.
they just have to let us know and they can still get their passes.
Yes.
Okay.
We're not going to turn people down for not
I
having
just wanna make sure that-
$225 right up front, you know.
So where we're going from here is, it will be on the agenda for a vote for next school committee meeting, with the plan for registration information to be then sent out the first week in May if this is approved. Between now and the next meeting, Tom and I will be working on a registration form and procedures so that you can see what the form would look like for families. The same information will be posted on the district websites. Reminders can be sent out to the community via email with School Messenger in late May, early June, reminding everybody that it is a first-come, first-served basis for those who live less than 2 miles or who are in grades 7 through 12. Deadline for registration is going to be at the end of this school year, June 26th. And if a family chooses to register after June 26th, those who are not legally required to be transported may be placed on a waiting list. The reason for this change is that it then allows from June 26th through the summer for us to work with LPVEC based on the ridership information that we have to create efficient routes with strategic stops. It allows us time to vet that with the police department and allows us time to get bus passes and route information out to families. So that is why those changes are being made. So that's where we're going from here. If there are community members who would like to give further input on this, we encourage you to please continue emailing the Transportation Subcommittee and or the school committee, and we will certainly review those prior to the vote at our next meeting on April 27th. John?
Yes, I have a question on the buses that come to the high school now, pull up to the front door into that special bus passageway.
Mm-hmm.
Under your proposal or this proposal, that would cease?
No, that would continue. That was the first proposal that we put out, that if they were going to have middle school students on the bus with them as well, that they would drop the students at the back end, the library entrance,
Okay,
so then they could just continue on Williams Street. down to Williams Middle School or to turn down Merriweather to go to Glenbrook. Now that there's not combined ridership, the drop-off and pickup for the high school will remain as it currently is in the front bus lane of the school.
Does the current policy entail problems, though? Like, wouldn't it be better if they dropped them off? Even if they don't have middle school children on?
I don't know, Tom, do you want to speak to that?
One of the challenges, John, is they would have to come through the media center, through the library. There is no real exterior door to bring them into a hallway, so they would have to traverse through the library every day, and that, we're concerned about the wear and tear on the carpet through the library.
No, that's good, that's good.
So we
All right.
were going to address that, but only related to the fact that the buses needed to get on to the next school. Now that that's not required, we felt keeping it the way it is, it seems to be flowing much better. There is a crossing guard, traffic guard, whatever you want to call them, assigned out in front of the building this year. So it seems to be making a difference.
So most of the traffic problems that we had at the front of the high school have been pretty much cleared up.
I mean, there's still traffic, don't get me
Well,
wrong.
yeah, there's traffic, but I mean, it's managed better.
Yes, it seems to be flowing better.
Yeah.
Fine, good.
And Liz, you had a question?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I think it would work better to be dropped off in the back, and why couldn't they go through the cafeteria end?
There's really no walk. You have to go all the way along. There's that winding walkway to get
Right.
up to the cafeteria.
Right,
They
well,
could.
if you were in a wheelchair, you'd have to do that anyway.
Correct. In the winter, it would be cold, but we can talk to high school administration about that. They didn't love the idea of having students coming in through the back of the building.
Right.
Put more people on duty back
Any other
there.
questions about the proposal?
Is this sort of a side question? You said the last day of school is the deadline.
Well, the Friday of the
Okay,
last day,
thank you.
of the
Last
the
week.
Friday of the last week of school. The last day is the 24th, I think.
Unless we have a snow day.
Stop. So yes, the last day of school is not the 26th, however, it's the last week of school, I guess I should say. The Friday of the last week of school.
Being nitpicky.
It's okay, you can be nitpicky. I don't want people confused thinking that we moved the last day of school again.
I think people are still confused, so not to jinx anything, but at some point where we think we might not have another snow day, can we send an email out to people letting them know that? Because I've gotten a lot of questions and I didn't, I had to look through it.
We
So
usually do that right after April vacation.
Okay, that's probably safe.
I would hope so. I would hope so, but you never know.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on to the.
Warrants.
Did you, I'm sorry?
Warrants.
Warrants, yes, that's what I was getting to.
Oh, okay. I move the school committee approve the warrant batch number 2200 of the school lunch fund fiscal year 2015, dated April 17, 2015, in the amount of $280.23.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Okay.
Okay, second batch. I move the school committee approve the warrant batch number 2814 of the general fund fiscal year 2015, dated April 17th, 2015, in the amount of $460,151.44.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor? Okay.
And that's it for warrants.
Okay. Katie, do you want to do the minutes?
I move that the school committee approve the minutes to the March 23rd, 2015 school committee meeting as presented.
Do you have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Actually, I just have one.
Oh, I'm sorry.
There was one word to change from me in my letter. I can give it to Diane, but it was just, instead of decisions, or discussions, it was decisions. So I can give you that, but otherwise, that's on my.
As amended.
Okay, so motion as amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We do have an executive session for this evening, which does require a roll call, a motion and a roll call vote.
Sure. I move that the school committee adjourn into executive session for the purpose of strategies that relates to collective bargaining with Unit A. To reconvene into open session, this motion requires a roll call vote.
Second.
So we have a motion and a second. I know
Aye.
you were excited, Liz.
I know. I just
Aye.
wanna
Aye.
keep going.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
All right, so thank you very much, everybody. We'll see you back here on Monday, April the 27th for a regular school committee meeting, and tomorrow night is the open forum for redistricting, 7 p.m. at the LHS auditorium. Thank you very much.
Yeah, Kenya?
How do we?